I'm going to just be showing how I tried to do some regular traditional training negative reinforcement with Castor, just so we can all see the difference. So I just want to say that I don't think negative reinforcement is bad, but I feel like this is a good example to show the difference in the horses and how they perceive it and how they feel about it. And Castor is going to tell me very clearly how he feels about this. Now, Castor is a wild Mustang. My other horses don't don't show you this much anxiety and fear toward it, obviously, because he is wild. But I think it's a good example from the previous video where he did have some tension, obviously, and he was also conflicted with the food. But it was important to see the difference with just using the reinforcement. So he's in the round pen now. I'm going to be working on him just touching the stick, and right away he's like, nope. He's already gone into flight. So I try to yield the hindquarters here. He's got an air on me. He's snorting. He's worried. His body language is very tense. I let him touch it. I'm trying to take it away. I'm trying to do approach and retreat. He's not even staying around for that. So he's leaving, a lot of snorting. He's very snorty, but just very apprehensive. So he turns his head and then he trots away. So he's just not a huge fan. And really, we haven't done anything. I haven't chased him around or done anything like that. I asked him to use his hindquarters and that was it. So that was actually pretty good. But so he's gonna lick and chew here, and I get a lot of people were like, okay, well, he's licking and chewing, so he's doing something correct. Yes, he's licking and chewing, but that doesn't mean he's doing something right or he's digesting a thought. That's not real. He was afraid and he's gone into flight and now he's coming back into grazing mode. That licking is the return of saliva to the mouth to go back to grazing. So he was afraid. He's showing me a calming signal and coming back down from that anxiety, I'm afraid, sympathetic nervous system. So he's coming back to the parasympathetic. See, that was too much. So I had just touched him on the forehead with the stick and it kind of bumped him. He's like, oh goodness, that's terrifying. So he does come back, but I think he's just going between freeze and flight here from now on the rest of the video here because he's really tense and tight. He's got his neck is arched. He is letting me touch him, but he's just frozen. He's not looking at me in like a way where he's kind of communicating. Like he's not being curious. He's not stretching his neck to me. He's not trying to sniff the stick. He's just frozen. And then he leaves quickly like that. So then he goes right into flight, which you can see a lot with just traditional training. You're like, oh, they're being quiet. And then they just explode because they weren't quiet. They were frozen. So he's got his head turned, more turn, and then he leaves. If I keep going, he wants to leave. And then he's showing me the right answer, which I should have backed off a little bit sooner, but still it's too much pressure for him. So again there, he's deciding what it is that I want him to do. And I'm just putting a lot of pressure. I'm standing in front of him. He's not sure what to do. Should I go through the gap? Should I back up? He wants no part of his head touching the rope or the stick, and then he just runs away and leaves. So and it's like I'm not chasing. I haven't swung at him. I hadn't put any like direct swinging rhythmic pressure on him at all. I am putting pressure on him. Yes, me at my presence, me getting in front of him, me holding up the stick. Those are all pressures, but they're different than your traditional round penning work pressures where I'm not throwing something at him or I am somewhat chasing him, but not in the round penning sense. More like blocking him, which I see a lot in just traditional Mustang training. So he is touching it here again. So he's frozen here. You can see from this side view, he's very tight. And if I was going to do this, just generally, I should have backed up a lot more. Because since he has an exaggerated flight response and he is wild, I should have just backed up probably all the way across the round pen to really give him a good release. But I did not. So it's hard to remember sometimes, especially with those feral horses, that your presence alone is um, the opposite of reinforcing. It's not good. They don't want it. I forgot the word. They don't want it there. It's negative to them. So I got to remember that me being there is scary for him, which is hard, especially when you don't work with Mustangs all the time. that just you being there, you're like, oh, I'm gonna come here and pet you, but aversive is the word I'm looking for. Me being there is aversive. So that is super important. And it doesn't have to be just all wild horses. Some regular domestic ridden horses, your presence is aversive to them, or other things you think that aren't aversive are. And so now he's just kind of going more into flight mode, trotting back and forth, trying to escape, and then going back to freeze. Even though that hind leg's cocked, he's not relaxed. He's more tense and worried here, and he just keeps going back and forth. So, but I thought this was important to just really see the difference. The video cuts off here in a minute. I went and did something else, and I just stopped doing this because clearly it is not working. We didn't do a whole lot of this, but I was experimenting, and I think it's really good to see the footage. Yes, there was some mistakes I could have done better on, but overall, I feel like I was making a lot more progress with just the positive reinforcement.